Hello, I'm Ezra Levan. It's March 27th, and you're watching my daily live stream briefing about the pandemic, Communist China, Justin Trudeau, and other things related. I have some big news for you that I just was shown moments ago about an insane exemption that Justin Trudeau is bringing to his no travel rules. He is specifically exempting anyone who claims to be a refugee from health screening. You won't believe it. I'll take you through the order in council so you'll see it with your own eyes. I'm going to wait about 5 minutes for the audience to trickle in before showing you that. But let me start with an equally infuriating piece of news from Australia that happened in North America and in Canada too. Take a look.
Instructed to drop everything and source bulk supplies of essential medical items to ship back to China. A whistleblower from that same company said it was a worldwide fleecing of stock. So in cities and rural towns around Australia, and you remember the shots of those buses in places like Orange and Parks, in an almost military operation, massive numbers of surgical masks, thermometers, antibacterial wipes, hand sanitisers, gloves and Panadol were stripped from the shelves and shipped to China. They even had the temerity to exhibit the packing on social media. This carried on unabated for 2 months. Most of these employees would be Australian residents and citizens, but with an overwhelming loyalty to their old communist masters back home. It's all been confirmed by the property group itself. It stated, "We felt compelled to assist in efforts to mitigate the spread of the virus, which had caused a shortage of crucial medical supplies in China." Now, according to the company newsletter, the group sourced 3 million protective masks, 700,000 hazmat suits and 500,000 pairs of protective gloves from Australia, Canada, Turkey and other countries. It said, "We've organised the manpower and material resources to purchase medical supplies such as masks, protective clothing and goggles in major Australian cities." As if it wasn't obvious, even back in January, that this virus would find its way to Australia. Our Chinese community, our student population, the million Chinese tourist numbers that we have in, they are massive numbers. And now we have hospital staff screaming out for masks and protective gowns, the public screaming out for sanitiser, and I've got to tell you, I haven't found Panadol on the shelves for my kids for weeks. But the point here is we don't manufacture most of these items. They're made in China in the billions. Some Chinese people here and some of their company bosses should actually reassess why they moved to Australia and why they made a pledge of allegiance, because clearly their allegiance still lies in the heart of communist Beijing.
Unbelievable. And that absolutely happened around the world. Instead of warning the world of a virus that they were shipping on flights around the world, they kept quiet, but they raided, did you hear that? What did he say? 700,000 hazmat suits. 700,000. They bought them all, and they didn't seek to warn anyone. Why would they warn the West? That would make the prices go up. They wanted to come in like an inside trade, like someone who knew something secret. They kept it secret so they could raid all the hazmat suits, all the sanitary wipes, all the disinfectants from the West without people in Australia, Canada, America, UK saying, I wonder why someone's buying up those things en masse. And now, of course, we have shortages in our own countries, as you heard that fellow from Australia. Now, what was described there in Australia were Chinese expats around the world purchasing at market value mass quantities and shipping them to China. So at least they were purchased. Only our stupid, rock-bottom stupid, dumb as a bag of hammers Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, in mid-February, just last month, can you call up that press release? Literally gave for free, as foreign aid from Canada to China, one of the richest countries in the world, we gave 16 tons, that's 32,000 pounds, of masks and gloves and hazmat suits for free. We shipped them there as a gift, as a signal of obedience and submissiveness and loyalty. Trudeau did that despite the fact that China has 2 Canadian hostages, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig. So you didn't even think to maybe trade it for them. Not that I believe in paying the Dane Geld, not that I believe in paying a ransom, but just in the face of the Chinese virus, in the face of China's abuse of us, you just gave them all our gear. Not that 32,000 pounds of face masks is going to be enough to save China, but it certainly is enough to give away our pandemic stockpile just 'cause. It reminds me of when Trudeau did that tweet of to Trevor Noah of The Daily Show, say, hey, how does $50 million sound for your initiative, just to get a lot of social media action? He spent $50 million on a whim to get some likes. And he did that again last month. Just infuriating. Yeah, I think that gentleman in Australia has some excellent points about loyalty. When you take an oath of loyalty to your new country and pledge to be a citizen, maybe we should end dual citizenship. Why shouldn't we? I remember when Stéphane Dion, and I think Thomas Mulcair also, had both French and Canadian passports. Well, pick a lane, buddy. And it's not, especially when you're in high office, whose team are you rooting for? Canada has agreements with France, and we have disagreements with France. And on some things, the disagreements are quite profound. If you hold a passport, it's not just a way to travel. It's a sign of where your heart is, where you're legally, constitutionally, who you regard as your sovereign. How can you both follow the President of France and the Queen of England, who's also the Queen of Canada? And I say that same thing should apply to new immigrants. Are you still loyal to the Communist Party of China, or are you now loyal to Canada, our Queen, and your fellow citizens? And what we heard there from Australia is that Chinese expats in Australia who claim to be citizens undid their home country because they don't regard it as their home country. They raided all the stockpiles in Australia, 700,000 hazmat suits. By keeping secret the nature of the pandemic and using that moment of secrecy to buy from the gullible West our stockpiles. That is malice if ever. I want to show you 2 more things in this vein about masks, and then I'm going to get to the breaking news I have today. I've shown, here's the World Health Organization saying, oh, don't worry about those masks. No, don't worry. Don't worry that China was in a panic and they bought up all the world's masks. You Westerners, you don't need it. I think we've got some sound on tape. Let's take a listen.
If you do not have any respiratory symptoms such as fever, cough, or runny nose, you do not need to wear a medical mask like this one. Mask alone can give you a false feeling of protection and can even be a source of infection when not used correctly. Masks should only be used by healthcare workers, caretakers, or by people who are sick with symptoms of fever and cough. Why? Because healthcare workers and caretakers are in close contact with ill individuals, so they're at higher risk of catching COVID-19. And sick people should wear masks to protect others from small droplets that can come out when they cough or sneeze. So, for healthcare workers, caretakers, or individuals who have fever and cough, this is how you should wear a mask. Before touching the mask...
Well, she's lying. She's lying. I'll tell you the lie. As you may know, one of the reasons that coronavirus is so effective as a virus, I mentioned this yesterday, is when you get Ebola, you die extremely soon and extremely visibly. People know I mean, it's bloody, it's awful, it's disastrous. And in that way, thinking genetically, the Ebola virus is not very successful because it kills its host before it can get into the next host. But coronavirus is the opposite. You can carry it without showing symptoms for 2 weeks, they say. I've heard some reports of longer. So you can be walking around healthy as a bull. And when you sneeze and cough, or just when you talk, the air that comes out of your lungs is moist, of course. That's why, you can breathe on a mirror and see a little bit of moisture. That's why you wear a mask before you are diagnosed. That's how they managed to stop the virus in Taiwan. Everyone wears a mask all the time except when they're eating. Here right now, this shows Taiwan. Everyone's got a mask. They take temperatures of everyone all the time. If someone has a fever, they're immediately isolated. Because they're taking such vigorous steps, and this is a great video, because they don't trust Communist China, because they were kicked out of the World Health Organization. Did you know that Taiwan is kicked out of the World Health Organization because Communist China pushed them out? So they don't have the lying Chinese propaganda I just showed you. So they have a National Health Command Center because they don't trust the World Health Organization. They test everybody all the time. They combine their health database with their travel database. Anyone who had risks, like they had a respiratory disease, they had asthma, whatever, you're going to China, they would test you going in, test you coming out. Taiwan, population about 25 million, 800,000 Taiwanese literally living in China, 400,000 Taiwanese working in China. Those two countries are so closely connected, and yet in all of Taiwan, they haven't shut down the schools, they haven't shut down the restaurants, and they have had a grand total of 2 people die from coronavirus. 2. Now that's 2 tragedies, but that's not 200 or 2,000 or 20,000 because they wore masks. The mask is so you don't spray. When we talk, a tiny little drops of spit come out. I don't care how polite and careful you are, tiny bits, and even what they would call aerosol, you can't even see it. It's just moist air. You know that because you hold up a mirror and go, that's moisture. That's where the virus is. That's why you have the face mask. That World Health Organization spokesman is lying. Why would she lie? And at the same time, China's buying up every mask in the free world. Well, which one is it? If the masks don't work, why is China buying them all? Unbelievable. So, of course, Canada gave our entire stockpile to China for free last month. And here's a tweet from Althea Raj, one of the most Trudeau-friendly journalists. I don't even know if I should call her a journalist. I mean, she's a government journalist. So she's talking about Canada's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Tam, who's making excuses for Trudeau, which tells you everything you need to know. Dr. Tam says, regarding Canada sending supplies to China, that containment at source is a most important concept to prevent further spread of the virus. Global public health collaboration is extremely important, she says, points to containment of Ebola to West Africa as example. No. Sending 16 tons of masks to China in mid-February is not going to contain the problem. The problem was already here. The first case that arrived in Canada was, I think, very late January, if I recall. I'd have to dig up my calendar because I remember it was a weekend. I was at hockey, and it was on a weekend, and the Ontario government had an emergency press conference on a weekend. I thought, wow, you don't see that very often, must be bad. So it was already here. The virus was already here. It was already spreading. There was no limits on flights from China whatsoever. Donald Trump brought in restrictions to China flights January 31. Not Canada. We waited another month or more. In fact, what am I saying? There's Chinese flights every hour. Can you go to FlightAware or go to my tweets? That'll help you. Let's start with yvr.ca. And then I got some news for you about how Trudeau's letting in refugee claimants with the fever. Go to yvr.ca. In the meantime, I'll read a super chat. Bob the Monk, $19. Just checked my last pay stub. Paid 39% of income tax. Will I receive a check or a tax break from a toxic Caucasian man? Well, that's a good question. You know, I cut a check last month, as I do every month, to Revenue Canada for $35,000. That's our payroll deductions here. That's a lot of money. $35,000 every month I'm sending to Revenue Canada on behalf of CPP and EI for our staff. And it would be easier if we didn't have to. Let me put it that way. We're holding our staff. We had a little fundraiser. We're doing well. If you want to help us, go. You can make a super chat contribution. So we're not, thank God, we're not in a stressed time financially. Our viewers support us. But yeah, 35 grand a month we pay in payroll taxes alone. That's a fact. I think I saw another super chat. There we go. Mr. Big Canuck, do you think any premiers are doing a good job? Yes, I think so, actually. I think the premiers are doing a better job than the feds, that's for sure. I think Jason Kenney's doing a pretty good job. I even, to my surprise, think John Horgan of BC is doing a better job than I thought he would. David Anderson, $2. Dual citizenship is early stage globalism. Exactly right. Pick a lane. Proud Boys Calgary, China is... I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that clip where Avi went to Hong Kong and that guy said, Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole. And it had quite a lot of power since it was an ethnic Chinese man saying it. All right, what did I ask you for? Yeah, let's go to Vancouver arrivals right now, and then I'm going to get to the news of the day. So this is the arriving flights. We do this every day. Very, very first flight of the day. Okay, so you see it says China Eastern. MU581, yeah, just copy that, like select that with your mouse, copy it, and then go to FlightAware, and let's pump it in and see what happens. That's right. I went to that website earlier. I saw 5 flights from China, and I'm not including Taiwan, which I regard, obviously, as an independent country. It is, and like I just said, they got this flu thing, this virus thing under control. I would frankly rather be in Taiwan health-wise than anywhere else in the world right now. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Let's just go slow here. China Eastern Flight 581 from Shanghai to Vancouver. You see it says en route, arriving in 27 minutes. And then, so it's being airborne for 10 hours, 44 minutes. That's the total travel time. 27 minutes, go scroll down a bit. It's 128 kilometers away. So I'm guessing it's over Vancouver Island right now. Scroll down a little bit. Yeah, and then can you zoom in on that map? Let's see where it is. Thank you for doing this. Yeah, so this is a live online tracking page that you can literally track any flight that you have the call letters or whatever. Well, it looks like it is... yeah, so it's not over Vancouver Island. It's over, what's that, the Sunshine Coast. It's a little further than the Sunshine Coast. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know my BC map off by heart. But it's coming, YVR, of course, is Vancouver Airport. That orange and red line is the U.S. border. So that flight, and it says A332, so that tells you that it's an Airbus 300 series aircraft. We don't know the configuration. Yeah, so there we go. There's a photo of it. That's a nice big airline, probably has 200 people on it. That's landing in Vancouver in 27 minutes. Is that what it said there? Scroll back up a tiny bit more. 26 minutes. So in 26 minutes time, this flight from China, go all the way to the top, please. This flight from China Eastern Airlines. So, I mean, even if it were Air Canada, so at least you've got Canadian citizens who probably care about their home country. But China Eastern, they don't care about what they care about Canada. Do you think they're screening their passengers for coronavirus? And when that plane lands in 26 minutes in Vancouver and disgorges, let's say there's 200 people on the plane. Maybe there could be 300. I don't know the configuration of that Airbus 300. It's not the massive Airbus 380. It's the plane we showed you. That's a great website, by the way. You can do this yourself. Go to yvr.ca. Check any flight, grab its flight number, plug it into that Flight Aware. That's the name of that website. Yeah, let's just scroll down for a second. So we just showed you the Shanghai flight. There's a Beijing flight. See it there? Air China from Beijing. And then let's keep going. I counted 5 when I looked on my own. Hong Kong. Again, I trust the Hong Kong people more than I trust the actual communists, but still, it's part of China. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I know there's another Hong Kong. There's an Air Canada flight with Hong Kong. This is just Vancouver, of course. I think there's a Beijing, oh, maybe we already saw it. There's a Shanghai flight, China Eastern. Looks like that's canceled. There we go. Sichuan Airlines from Chengdu. I've been to Chengdu. It used to be part of Tibet. It's actually the panda bear headquarters of China. It's like all Chinese cities, it's horribly polluted. But what we're talking about today is the virus and Sichuan Airlines. Can you grab that strange looking flight number there and type that into Flight Aware? Because I'm not familiar with Sichuan Airlines. I want to just see just a little bit about it. Or about this flight. Okay, so what's funny here is you see it leaves on Saturday and arrives on Friday. Well, how's that even possible? Because it goes the opposite direction of the international date line, right? So Chengdu, China, I've been to that panda facility. Those pandas are taken better care of than people in China. I hate to say it, the Communist Party of China values those pandas at millions of dollars each. And the life of an ordinary Chinese person is worthless in the eyes of the Communist Party. I'm sorry, that's the truth. So it hasn't taken off yet, but it will land tonight at 11:13. Oh, 19 minutes elapsed. Thank you. Yeah, let's go down. Let's look at it. So I was confused by the date line. Yes, it looks like it's taken off. Thank you for the correction, Justin. So you can see Chengdu, that's quite a long flight. What's the total flight time? Scroll up for a tiny bit. 14-hour flight. That is that's one of the longest flights in the world, I think. I think the longest flights on this planet are like 18 hours. 14 hours. Because Chengdu, that's not on the coast. That's not Shanghai. So Chengdu, the panda capital, on Sichuan Airlines, flight 8501, took off 19 minutes ago now. It's flown 211 kilometers. It's still over China, I'm sure. It's got almost 14 hours still to go. That's a long flight. You can see it's taking off tomorrow and landing today. And A332, okay, scroll down. Let's see a little bit more about it. Okay, there's the A33200 twin jet. I guess that's an extended range version. That looks like 200 to 250 person aircraft. That's a very, very long flight. One of the longest flights in the world, I would think. Yeah, so what did we see? 5 different flights coming today. 1 was canceled. A variety of airlines. Do you trust Sichuan Airlines to screen their passengers? I don't, but no airline is equipped to be doctors. Are they even taking temperature tests? I very much doubt it. And here's the thing. Thanks very much. When those planes land in Vancouver, I'm going to say a third or a half of the people just go to Vancouver. There's a lot of Chinese Canadians in Vancouver. But a lot of them, because if you're taking a 14-hour flight from Chengdu, I don't think there's a flight from Chengdu to Toronto. I'm quite certain of it, in fact. So you say, let's say there's 250 people on that plane. Let's say 200. So 200 land on the plane. Let's say 100 of them go to the greater Vancouver region. And then 100 of them at Vancouver Airport go through customs. where they touch screen, do you have a cough? Do you have a fever? I don't think so. And they go through, no one takes their temperature, and 100 of those people then go on the connecting flights domestically. What do I mean by that? They get off of Sichuan Airlines from Chengdu, where they've been cooped up with everyone else for 14 hours, rebreathing that recirculated air. And then they get on a WestJet flight or an Air Canada flight from Vancouver, and they go to Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Regina, Toronto, Montreal, Halifax. They go anywhere in the country. Maybe they even make their way to the United States. Because once they're here, and they, in many cases, immediately board a domestic airline, and the Canadians who are on that domestic airline do not know that 100 people who just got off a 14-hour flight from from Chengdu, are now sitting next to them. How do you feel about that? And to think Justin Trudeau wants us to believe that he stopped foreign flights. He simply hasn't. And this is not deep research I'm doing. This is probably the 10th time I've had Justin go to that YVR. YVR is the initials for the Vancouver airport. Go to YVR, do it yourself. Go to yvr.ca, click arrivals, skim through, see the flights. Copy that little flight number. Click on flights, and then just copy that little number. MU 581. I happen, and you can see right beneath it, WS701. So WS is the code for WestJet. AC right under that, that's for Air Canada. F, that's Flair. So you see each airline, TS is Air Transat. So each airline has sort of like its two-letter code, right? So China Eastern Airlines is MU. So that's China Eastern Airlines Flight 581. So you just literally just highlight MU 581. Do this yourself. And then go to flightaware.com. That's the URL, right? So you just go to flightaware.com and put it right in there, and it'll take you exactly to that. Let me show you one more thing on FlightAware. So you see he just pasted it there, boom. But there's another way to do it. Click on the FlightAware logo on the top left, and then look at this. So you can search by airline, search by flight number, but search by origin. So type in Beijing, and then click PEK, which is there's several airlines there. And then go to, I don't know if there's flights directly from Beijing to Toronto. Type in Toronto. Pearson Airport, and then search. Yes, there is. Look at that. So go to the second one there, Hainan Airlines. So this is Hainan Airlines. I've never even heard of it. From Beijing to Toronto, Terminal 3, arriving in 2 hours and 40 minutes. So scroll down. Wow, that is a very long flight, isn't it? Look at that. And because of the curvature of the Earth, it's going up. Like it looks like it's taking a curvy route, but that's just because of the globe is spherical and it's being represented on a two-dimensional screen. That is actually the straightest line, believe it or not. So they flew over Alaska, over the Yukon, I think, Northwest Territories, maybe even Southern Nunavut. No, that looks like Northwest Territories. And it's just going through Manitoba right now, I guess. And it's coming down to YYZ, which is the code for Toronto's airport. So it's just near the Hudson Bay. And it's going to land at 2:40 p.m. or something, in 2 hours and 40 minutes. Or something like that. I missed that part. Gate arrival 3 p.m. it says. Landing at 2:43 p.m., gate arrival 3:08. So it lands and then it taxis for 20 minutes. Scroll down, let's learn more about the plane. So it is a B789. So it's a Boeing 787. That's a very modern aircraft, wonderful aircraft, made by Boeing. And there's various configurations. Again, let's say for argument's sake, there's 250 passengers on that plane. That's a 12-hour and a half flight. That is a long flight. In fact, maybe David should go and welcome that flight. Or David Menzies. I don't. David just got here. Yeah, maybe David wants to go and welcome the flight. Ask people if they're getting temperature checks. Ask them if they're connecting on. Like if you're going from Beijing to Toronto directly, that's actually, those are two very large cities. My guess is most of the people landing live in the Greater Toronto area. So I'm guessing most of them are not connecting onto other domestic airlines. But maybe if you live in Halifax, this is probably the flight you take. All right, I'm behind on my super chats. Inf MDA, $5. Done. Thanks for all you do, Ezra. Well, thank you for that. Ray W, £10. You are all make me feel guilty. Guilty about what? Okay, Lamont, you guilted me into it. Okay, you're talking about guilt for chipping in dough. Well, thank you. Jan Surowitz, $21. Keep up the good work. Thanks very much. Lamont Boucherville, $20. Let's get the donations going, fellas. We can put in $20. That's nice of you. That's the guilt you're talking about. Well, that's a good kind of guilt, isn't it? I appreciate that support. Yeah, that's, frankly, how one of the ways we pay our payroll taxes. Is Prince Justin still jacking up the carbon tax? Yes, he is. And I heard he was asked today, is he going to raise it, yes or no? And he hummed and hawed. Just scrolling through to see if I missed any more super chats. If I did, Justin, just send me an email. Okay, it's 12:30. I showed you that Australian TV commentary, which is outrageous. I showed you the World Health Organization lying about masks. I showed you Althea Raj, a government journalist for the CBC and Huffington Post, making excuses for Trudeau sending all our masks to China. David Anderson, $4. Every home should have a supply of masks in the future. Well, I don't even think it needs to be that way. I think maybe we could just have some like pharmacies or hospitals or Canada. How about let's just not ship them to China, okay? Ezra, what's going on? This is from Info MDA. Ezra, what's going on with Trudeau's extended quarantine? No other elected leaders refuse to test. Makes no sense. Don't eat chicken in the cave. Chicken in the cave. Ah, yeah, that was funny. Did we play that on the show or did I just tweet that? Chicken in the cave. Do you want to load up that chicken in the cave? Because some other viewers are probably saying, what is that about? In the meantime, can you put up the Jennifer Zhang tweet? While I got so many jobs for you, Justin. Thank you. You want to put up the Jennifer Zhang tweet yeah, there we go. While you look for that chicken in the cave. So Jennifer Zhang, I recommend following her on Twitter if you're a Twitter person like me. She is obviously ethnic Chinese, but she is a democracy activist. And this is just back to the masks thing. The story is China-backed firms shipped out Australia's medical supplies in bulk. And here's her commentary. I think the Chinese Communist Party has been doing this all over the world, not only in Australia. China-backed firms shipped out Australia's medical supplies in bulk amid the virus outbreak report. So just an incredible, incredible story. And if you can follow Jennifer Zhang, because she obviously speaks Chinese, and I just find her very, very useful. Can you go to PhD parody? You want to know my Chinese sources? And I say take everything skeptically, you got to be skeptical. But I find the New Tang Dynasty and Epoch Times people to be very honest and very earnest and very conscientious. And frankly, I admire them as people and journalists too. So this guy here, Harry Chen, PhD, who has chosen the strange name PhD parody. Why would he do that? Because he's been shut down so many times by Twitter. He says, well, maybe if I call myself a parody account, they won't take me down for disinformation. Look at this image here. He says, I'm not comfortable with how Star Wars-y China is becoming. Look at this image. Look at that, will you? What even are they spraying? And why are you spraying the road? It's the people who have the bug. Scroll down a bit for Harry. I haven't even looked at him today. Hubei police led the charge. The monks say after a long period of depression, it will always break out. Yeah, look at that. What's going on here? I think the tweet below it explains it. So actually scroll down a bit. Let's go to the beginning of Harry's day because these are all related tweets. So just a little bit lower, and let's go up. Let's work up here. Yeah, that's good enough. Shenzhen Bao'an district has a case. This virus isn't going away anytime soon. So his point is China keeps saying we have no new cases, but they do, so obviously, and one of the ways they pretend they have no new cases is by refusing to let patients into the hospitals so they don't have to write it down. Wuhan Tongji Hospital does not accept patients in an emergency. It is a poor patient with diabetes complications and medical treatment is refused. Now they're all masked up, hazmated up, so obviously there's still cases in Wuhan. What's this one here? How did China lie to the world? Well, a little word called acting. After 5,000 years, the Chinese have mastered it. Observe. And underneath it, everyone relax. It wasn't real. They were simply acting. Yeah, that's from some show. Okay, so that's just his commentary. Look at this, 340,000 virus tests that Spain bought from China don't work. And, oh, look at the one underneath it. I just heard it's actually 650,000 tests, all with counterfeit 3M logos. But of course, that's how China rolls. We're almost done with Harry Chen, but you see why I regard him as an interesting source? Here, oh, this is the one. The Jiangxi National Police unreasonably closed the border crossing of the Zhujiang Bridge. Furious Hubei Huangmei refugees and Huangmei police officers took to the streets to fight for justice. Now, I don't even know if he's being ironic, but all I know is that you have inter-provincial rivalries in China. On March 27, it was said that the seal had been released. Zhujiang police still set up a card to prevent Hubei people from crossing the border. So Hubei people and Jiangxi police clashes. And then one more up on top of that. So these are more clashes. So Wuhan is in Hubei province. So I'm getting so technical here. So the city of Wuhan, which is the epicenter of this virus, is in Hubei province. All right? So you don't have to be a Canadian in late March to be afraid of Hubei province. Other Chinese were back then. So the story that Harry Chen tells there is that after the seal was broken and Wuhan was taken out of lockdown, well, the neighboring province said, yeah, no thanks, we don't want you. And they set up a card and police, and they tried to block Wuhan Hubei people from coming over, and there was a fight. So I showed you a bunch of flights coming from China to Canada. In China, they don't even let people go into other Chinese provinces. They're scared of them. What do they know that we don't? All right. Yesterday, I was out at the mailbox, and I saw, was it Popeyes? Is that where I went yesterday? I saw Popeyes fried chicken. I'd never eaten Popeyes before. I'm more of a Swiss chalet guy, and I've tried to quit KFC because it's just too good. And I bought some Popeyes, and I thought it wasn't bad chicken. Don't know if I would go back, but it made me think of this clip from Anchorman. Do you remember this?
Listen, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Anything.
Is this chicken?
Hell no. It's really impossible to turn a profit if you serve real chicken. Yeah, we use mainly bats.
What?
Yeah, but the good quality kind.
That's the most horrible thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
So what you gotta do is serve fried bats?
Yep. Do you know what they call bats?
Bats.
Chicken of the cave.
No one calls them chicken of the cave.
Why don't you have a bite and stop judging it?
I'm not gonna bite into a fried bat.
It's delicious.
It's all tendon. Look at it. Was that a bat?
Chicken of the cave.
That is a very funny movie. May I recommend it? Why is that funny? That's funny because it's so absurd and outrageous. Everyone knows don't eat bats. And the fact that he was serving bats, that's the comedy. It's sort of a lowbrow comedy, one step above physical comedy, like the Marx Brothers. Why is that funny? It wouldn't be funny if he used turkey instead of chicken. Wouldn't be funny if he used Cornish hen instead of chicken. Why is it funny? It's funny because it's so outrageous. Why is it outrageous? It's outrageous because it's gross. That's why it's funny. Duh. Hey, memo to self, don't explain jokes. It's like dissecting a frog. Everybody's bored, and at the end of it, the frog is dead. But the reason we are repulsed by repulsive things is it's 50,000 years of natural selection saying, don't eat the goddamn bat. Don't eat the bat. That clan ate bats, they're dead. That tribe cooked beef on a fire, and they're alive. If you want to survive the Stone Age, don't eat bats! Lots of super chats. Damon the Damage, $20. Why do you think Trump wants troops at the Canadian-U.S. border? Should we agree so we don't get invaded by U.S. citizens wanting health care? That is not a ridiculous point. New York State abuts Quebec. That's at Roxham Road. New York State abuts Ontario as well. If they get overwhelmed, why wouldn't they just come into Canada and get free health care? Proud Boys Calgary, $2. Cities with international flights have most cases. Yeah, obviously. Ezra, are social distance warriors a thing now? Yeah, you're right. We showed that one guy. Did we show yesterday that British chicken village? We showed it on one of the shows. Did we show it in the live chat? Yeah. Yeah. So, and listen, I understand both sides of that. How long are you going to stay cooped up? How long is an unemployed worker going to say, yeah, I'm going to believe a politician who is well paid, thank you very little. The MPs gave themselves a $2.5 million pay raise collectively. Taltana, $10. Does anybody know anyone firsthand that actually got the virus? Tests are giving false positives. They're not testing for the virus, but for any corona. That's why the number increases so fast. Scam. That's interesting. I haven't heard that before. But yes, I interviewed my friend James Dellingpole, who says he got the virus. He said it was very bad, but he's through it now, although he has some lingering issues with his lungs. So I guess that's the closest I've come to anyone that I know of. Shauna Ferguson, $10. Thank you. Well, thank you. C182 OPR, $5. Ezra, use the origin and destination box on main page of FlightAware. This gives connecting flights as well as direct. Oh, that's a good idea. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that advice, and I will try to follow it. Permanent vacation, $10. Thank you. Have I caught up, more or less? Okay. It's 12:42, and I want to talk about what I wanted to talk about. Justin, did you see that thing I emailed you from Jason? Can you click on the Order in Council and take me to that website? So we've been talking about flights coming in, and look at this. So orders, so just let's go really slowly on this because I haven't even read it carefully myself. It's so new. So this is a Government of Canada website. It's Orders in Council. That's another way of saying an executive order. That's what we're calling, it's a cabinet order. That's what we call it in Canada. In the States, it would be called an executive order. As you can see, the date is yesterday. So let's read this slowly. Whereas the Governor in Council is of the opinion, that's a fancy way of saying cabinet. That basically says Justin Trudeau is of the opinion that, okay, let's go slow here. Based on the declaration of a pandemic by the World Health Organization, their entry into Canada from the United States. Okay, so that's the long way of saying we got a pandemic. We're using the Quarantine Act to limit travel from America. Okay, and then it's in French. Scroll down. Okay, so now we're getting into it. Now I'm just going to go and find the link because I literally got this as I was walking in here. I want to make sure I get straight to the point because I got and I beg your patience while I don't want to read through the whole thing here. Why don't you gently scroll down so people can read because I'm just zeroing in. There we go. Section 2.1. There we go. Wasn't very far, was it? So prohibition. A foreign national is prohibited from entering Canada and the United States if they exhibit the following signs and symptoms: a fever and a cough, or a fever and breathing difficulties. This is very easy to understand. Non-application. But look at this, 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 look at this. Subsection 1, we just saw it up above, does not apply to persons referred to in subsection 5.2 who seek to enter Canada from the United States for the purpose of making a claim for refugee protection. Oh, so 5.2. A foreign, look at 5.1 first. Let's read 5.1. Prohibition, claim for refugee protection. A foreign national is prohibited from entering Canada from the United States for the purpose of making a claim for refugee protection, except non-application. Subsection 1 does not apply to a citizen of the United States, a stateless habitual resident of the United States, a mother, father, or a legal guardian within the meaning of the Act, someone under 18. Sorry, I'm reading this a little too fast. Go down a little bit more, number 6. Does not apply to an Indian, does not apply. The main point is 2.1a and b, sub 2. Can you go back up? Sorry, I'm sort of going through this in real time with people. I apologize. There we go. Thank you so much. Scroll up just a tiny bit more. Perfect. This is it here, okay? Oh, go up even more to 2.1. It's called Prohibition, Signs and Symptoms, 2.1a. There we go. Thank you. Sorry I'm messing around. I just want to nail this right. And I'm sort of learning about this at the same time as I'm talking about it, so that's always tricky. Okay, thank you. We've got what we want on the screen now. So I've already read you the preamble. I've already showed you what this is. This is a cabinet order. I showed you when this was released yesterday. I showed you the preamble. Prohibition. A foreign national is prohibited from entering Canada if they have a fever and a cough or fever and breathing difficulties. Okay, that's good. We all agree with that. Duh, right? But then immediately under that it says, that does not apply to people entering from the United States to make a refugee claim. You can show up at the border and go, I got a fever. Oh, we're keeping you out, sir. Oh, really? I'm a refugee. Oh, come right on in, sir. You're a foreigner who clearly is a fibber, because there's no such thing as a refugee from the United States. The United States is a free country. There are no refugees from America. Ab initio, as they say in Latin, you're a liar by saying you're a refugee from the United States. And, by the way, we have something called the Safe Third Country Act, which says anyone coming from Canada into the States cannot be a refugee. Anyone coming from the States into Canada cannot be a refugee. It's a bilateral thing, because we both know it's ridiculous. They're liars. They're people who are maybe fleeing. They were ordered deported from America, so they know if they just come to Canada, they'll be safe. 50,000 people have done so at Roxham Road. By the way, at Roxham Road, there's a huge sign that says illegal entry. So not only are you lying about your refugee status, there's a big sign saying illegal point of entry. Yesterday, put it up on the screen one more time, because I took a while to wrap my head around it, but now I got it. Put up the part, there we go. 2.1, 2.1. A foreigner is prohibited from coming here if you got a fever and a cough or a fever and breathing difficulties. Got it. That's what we expected. But then right underneath it, it does not apply to people coming from the States for making a refugee claim. He literally carves out the liars and the criminals. And in fact, they're the only ones who can come in now from the States, right? The only non-Americans. If I'm understanding the rules. The rules are changing every 12 hours here. Justin Trudeau has just told the world. You know, 4 years ago he put out that dumb tweet saying everyone's welcome here, and 50,000 people took him out up on it, mainly people who were about to be deported from America, because either they were found to be bogus refugees there or they were criminals. So we literally took the worst of Americans. And Donald Trump didn't mind, because he was laughing. He was having illegals and criminals self-deport to Canada. He was thrilled. Trump was pleased. Imagine 50,000 people leaving America. Well, because they found a bigger sucker. So that was just a dumb tweet that Justin Trudeau tweeted on the weekend, I recall. Probably did it by himself with no advice. This is an order in council. This is a cabinet order. You and I are on lockdown. Schools are closed down. Restaurants are closed down. 929,000 people were laid off from their jobs last week alone. Hospitals are being cleared out. All elective surgeries are being postponed. The whole place is in a giant hold your breath moment. But Justin Trudeau went back and amended his quarantine rules for America to specifically carve out an exemption to allow bogus refugees with a cough, with a fever, to go to the front of the line, to come on. And what are you going to do? Where are you going to take them? So they come there at Roxham Road, fever and a cough. And you're taking them, and where are you going to put them? You going to take them to Montreal? Of course not. They're not that stupid in Quebec. They're going to Toronto. So every Toronto citizen, every Toronto taxpayer, sorry guys, we have this case of a foreign citizen who came in despite the quarantine, and all we know about them is one thing. They are a liar and a lawbreaker because that's how they got in. We're putting them to the front of the queue. Sorry, your grandma or grandpa doesn't get that hospital bed, doesn't get that ventilator, because Justin Trudeau likes foreigners better than he likes his own country. And we know that's true because he shipped 16 tons worth of masks to China in February. And he gave $50 million worth of foreign aid to the virus to Greece. Because I don't even know why, because he's still campaigning for his United Nations Security Council seat, perhaps. Craig McDonald, this essential oil sands worker is lucky to be employed and able to pay my bills, but between COVID and perpetual oil price drops, I may not be for long. This madness has to stop or we're all doomed. Well, you're not just kidding. And there will be a breaking point, I think. We saw that breaking point with the railway blockades, where our government was so incompetent that it fell just to some regular guys to go and clear a blockade in northern Alberta. Just regular guys saying, you know what, this is dumb. Who knows who's commanding Trudeau's RCMP anymore? We're just going to move the junk off the railway. That was peaceful. It wasn't vigilantism. You might recall we sent Sheila Gunn-Reid to deliver all those guys a case of beer. I think you're going to see similar spontaneous actions on this virus mess, because you simply can't tell 37 million Canadians you're under house arrest. You can't do that for long. I disagree with what I saw David Menzies reporting from parks in Toronto, that you're told not to walk your dog. You're by yourself. Who are you getting the virus from? It's not like the air is poisoned in general. It's don't go right up to strangers and breathe in their face. All right, how's walking your dog bad? Two guys were playing catch at the park. How's that breaking the rules? I think there's going to be a backlash. The government is useless at doing what it's supposed to do, like keeping out illegal refugees with the virus. So it distracts us by doing things it's not supposed to do. Yeah. So this is from David's interview yesterday. That's a lady in the park with her dogs. I'm sorry, show me the problem there. And David has his microphone on a hockey stick. He's funny, isn't he? He put his microphone on a hockey stick, so he keeps it. And this lady here says, I didn't know there was a ban. Well, and what's wrong? Where are you going to walk your dogs? So walk them on the sidewalk instead of the park? Can you find that British cop shop that, yeah. So here's a vid that look at this. This is a lovely British countryside. Isn't that lovely? These vehicles should not be here. Why do the vehicles have the virus? Walking your dog in the Peak District. So there's two people, obviously husband and wife, walking a dog. Sorry, what's the not essential? Where's the virus? Where's the threat there? Going for a walk miles from home, not essential. Where's the virus? They're so far away you have to spy on them. Going out of your way for an Instagram snap. Yeah, they're clearly husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Driving to a beauty spot for a stroll. Sorry, is the drive? Is it the driving that's the problem? Heading to the peaks to watch the sunset, not essential. Really? Look at how big that place is. You should only travel if it is essential. What's that got to do with catching the virus? Traveling to remote areas for your exercise is not essential. Really? Sounds pretty essential to me. Stay healthy physically and mentally. Sounds like the cops are doing non-essential work. Can you get me some pictures of the tube? So London, which I've been to a lot lately to cover Tommy Robinson, they call their subway the Tube. It's a great subway system, maybe even the best in the world. New York City would be up there too, and I hear Moscow has a good subway system. It's very crowded, like any subway is, and in the UK they're trying to social distance. But look at this. Yeah, let me read the top there. Social distancing UK style. This is because SADC can reduce the number of trains. Now, no one's wearing a mask either. I can assure you, in Asia, they would all be wearing masks because they got the masks to wear. But the reason they're crowded, and that it is that crowded. I mean, it's not always that crowded, but you might as well just be, breathing in each other's open mouths there, which I suppose they're doing, because the traffic was down, let's say 75%, I'm just guessing. So SADC can reduce the number of trains by 75%. So instead of giving everyone 6 feet, they're all just as crowded as normal. So this apparently is cool by the cops. But if you drive with your spouse, you're quarantined at home with your spouse. If you get in your car and you drive an hour and go for an outdoors walk with nobody, apparently that is non-essential. It's essential police work, apparently. And here's my point. The cops aren't doing what they're supposed to doing, stopping people at the border who specifically have a fever and a cough. But they're stopping you from walking the dog in Toronto or walking the dog in England. It's, I don't know. When I saw that countryside there, when I interviewed James Delingpole the other day, it made me think of that passage from Richard II. Can I read it? You've probably heard, right? This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. How he described, he loved his country so much. I won't read it all to you. This is the last two lines. That England that was wont to conquer others hath made a shameful conquest of itself. Is there a word in that passage that is not applicable to today? And we're even worse here in Canada. All right, it's 12:58. Let me see if there's anything else we can show really quickly. Do we have a quick clip of David at the airport? We have the whole thing. Is there anything else we have that's really quick? Why don't we just end by going to helprebelnews.com. Folks, as you know, 929,000 people have been laid off, and it's only going to get worse. But we have made a very high priority here at Rebel News not to lay off anybody. And I think we're in good shape. We've cut about $7,000 a month out of our expenses. We've worked with some vendors, and we've just delayed some hiring. We were going to hire an American correspondent for the election. We just put that on hold. So we've stopped incurring new expenses. We've cut back $7,000 on existing expenses. There's not a lot more to cut, frankly. I feel like we're in good shape. I like our new website. It's working well. I think things are going well. But they're starting to go like that for everybody now, because if 1 million Canadians are out of work newly, that includes Rebel supporters. As you know, we don't get a dime from the government. Unlike the CBC, they're going to get their $1.5 billion no matter what. Can you put the salt wire? Is there a salt wire headline you can grab? So unlike the rest of the media, we're 100% reliant on severely normal average people. We don't get the media bailout from Trudeau. We don't get the $1.5 billion a year like the CBC does. So I'm already seeing it. People saying, sorry, I'm out of dough. Sorry, I'm laid off. In fact, we just heard it from a super chatter momentarily saying, I'm not going to be able to hang on for long. I don't know if you saw this headline last week. Saltwire Network announces layoffs, newspaper closures amid pandemic. Actually, that was just 3 days ago. It feels like an eternity. So that's the largest news outlet in the Atlantic. They've shut down 20 newspapers. They're only keeping 4 newspapers in the whole region. They laid off 250 journalists. And I'm sad and I'm sorry for them. But what makes me angry is they still took millions of dollars from Justin Trudeau in the bailout. So I guess that money goes to the executives while the journalists get laid off. Did you know that's what your tax dollars are going to? So we have 16 people, full-time equivalent, at Rebel, which is a bit of a smaller shop than we had before, especially when we had a big operation in the UK, Australia, and the US. We don't have permanent staff in either of those locations anymore, so it's just the 16 of us Canucks. You know the on-air personalities, me, Sheila, David, Menzies, Key, and Bexty. Lots of great people from behind the scenes. My goal is to hold the line. No layoffs. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we put up a little website at helprebelnews.com. And we had an original goal of 70 grand. We hit it yesterday. And we've got our stretch goal of 100 grand. And what are we doing with that? Well, we're replacing lost revenue. And where did that lost revenue? Well, as you know, we had a cruise scheduled for this summer. That's obviously canceled. Those cruises aren't just fun, they're fundraisers. Last year we had 14 events across Canada that made money. All of those are, you can't have a meeting or an event. I'm worried about we have one event that we haven't canceled yet in the future. I'm already seeing people asking for refunds from. What are you going to say? No. So that's what the dough is there for, to help us make up for it. And the only reason I'm asking is because I'm not asking Trudeau to take it out of your pocket. I'm not asking like the CBC does or like that Saltwire chain of newspapers does. They just take it from your pocket whether you read it or not. Last week, the CBC shut down all their local TV broadcasts. Not that anyone noticed. The average 12,000 viewers per city is pitiful. But they still kept your money. I don't know if you know that. They just shut down all their local TV newscasts, but they didn't give the money back. So I'm in the unusual position of having to be one of the few journalist bosses in the country saying, hey guys, can I get your help? Because I'm one of the few journalist bosses who isn't grabbing your wallet without your permission. So if you do feel like chipping in, please do so at helprebelnews.com, or you can even do so in a super chat. So thanks for letting me make the pitch. Okay, one more super chat. I'm just going to find that one last super chat. Okay, I think I read that one. Oh, the one from Dennis that says thank you? Okay, that's great. Thank you from Dennis Payment. I'm sorry, I thought I had read that one before. All right, well, it's after 1, so I'm going to wrap it up. I got my show tonight. I'm going to go a little deeper on this special exam. I was reading it with you for the first time in real time. I just saw it as I was coming in on my BlackBerry, on my iPhone, so sorry, I was sort of herky-jerky going through it. Hey, can you do me a favor? If you're not already, can you click the subscribe? You could, click like if you liked it, but can you click that subscribe and can you click that little bell that gives you notifications? Because the thing is, if you don't click that bell, YouTube doesn't tell you when we have a new video. So please click like if you want, share if you want, but mainly subscribe and that little bell notification, because we've got to punch through, because frankly, CBC and the rest of the media party are being boosted by YouTube, and independent media like us are being de-boosted, especially on this virus. So we need your help to connect with us directly. All right, that's it for now. Until 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, to you at home, goodbye, stay healthy, and keep fighting for freedom.